My name is Madison Reed, and 3 days ago, my world shattered before my very eyes. I woke up on the morning of my 32nd birthday, expecting nothing more dramatic than a quiet breakfast and maybe a few texts from friends. Instead, I was met with the sharp, acrid smell of burnt plastic drifting through my apartment. Following the scent to the kitchen, my stomach dropped. There, in the bottom of my stainless steel trash can, lay the melted remains of my primary credit card, warped metal and blackened plastic twisted together like a cruel joke. At first, I thought it was some bizarre accident. Then I checked my banking app. $25,000 gone. Not pending, not transferred, just vanished. 3 years of scrimping, saving, and sacrificing every luxury for my dream house's down payment wiped out in a single night. My heart pounded in my ears as I scrolled through the transactions. Multiple ATM withdrawals at maximum limits, wire transfers to accounts I didn't recognize, and luxury purchases at high-end stores. It was deliberate, calculated, but this wasn't even the worst part. What happened later that night, at my own birthday party, would leave over 100 guests speechless when my father finally revealed why he'd been silent for the past decade. If you've ever been underestimated by people you love, this story will hit home. Stick around, and if it resonates with you, like, comment, and subscribe, so I know I'm not alone in this. As chief accountant for Reed Enterprises, my professional reputation was on the line. If word got out that I couldn't even protect my own finances, everything I'd worked for could come crashing down. Only 3 people knew the access code to my home security system, and 2 of them were about to ruin my life. The smell hit me before I even opened my eyes. Sharp, bitter, and unmistakably burnt plastic. At first, I thought something in my apartment complex was on fire. My heart thudded as I stumbled out of bed, still groggy, and followed the acrid scent to the kitchen. That's when I saw it. My sleek stainless steel trash can standing open like some sinister mouth. Inside, lying in a bed of coffee grounds and shredded junk mail, was my primary credit card. Or rather, what was left of it. The once smooth black card was now a warped, melted husk. I froze. Who melts a credit card? My pulse spiked as I grabbed my phone and opened my banking app. A sickening wave of nausea rolled over me when I saw my balance. $25,000. Gone. Not transferred. Not pending. Just gone. My hands trembled so violently I nearly dropped the phone. That money wasn't just cash. It was 3 years of late nights, skipped vacations, and side gigs. It was my down payment for the house I'd been dreaming about since I moved to Seattle. Gone in a single night. I forced myself to scroll through the transaction history. Each line felt like a slap in the face. ATM withdrawals, all at the maximum daily limit. Wire transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. And then the gut punch, charges from Louis Vuitton, Tiffany & Co. deals, Nordstrom, and other luxury retailers I'd never set foot in. It was a shopping spree, executed like a military operation between midnight and dawn. My throat went dry. This wasn't random theft. It was targeted. I bolted for my home security panel, my fingers fumbling as I pulled up the footage from last night. But the screen showed nothing. The feed from midnight to 6 a.m. was completely wiped clean. Deleted. My breath caught. Only 3 people had the access code to my system. Me, my father, and Linda, my stepmother. A chill ran through me. Whoever did this didn't just steal my money. They wanted me to find out today, on my birthday. "Happy birthday, Madison," I muttered bitterly, sinking against the counter. I pressed my palms to my eyes, trying to think through the fog of panic. Then, memories from the past week began to surface. Linda's sudden, intense curiosity about my savings. Melissa, my 28-year-old half-sister, hovering over me while I balanced my accounts, pretending she wanted to learn about financial planning. The secretive looks they exchanged whenever I mentioned my birthday dinner at the Grand Meridian, the city's most exclusive restaurant. My gut twisted. They hadn't just stolen from me. They were plotting something bigger. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my spiraling thoughts. A text notification lit up the screen. The preview was from Melissa, and I didn't even need to open it to feel my stomach churn. Melissa: "Morning, sis. Paris is amazing. Thanks for..." I opened it fully and almost screamed. A selfie appeared. Melissa, grinning at the Eiffel Tower, holding a champagne flute, a Chanel bag draped casually over her arm. She'd captioned it, "Thanks for making this trip possible, sis. Some of us actually know how to live a little." Another photo came through, this time of Hermes, Dior, and Louis Vuitton bags piled high around her feet. Don't worry, I'll bring you back a keychain. That's more your speed, right? My vision blurred with rage. Before I could react, my phone rang. Linda's name flashed across the screen. I answered, my voice ice cold. Linda. Madison, darling? She trilled, her tone so sweet it made my teeth ache. Just calling to remind you, tonight, 8 p.m. sharp, at the Grand Meridian. Everyone will be there. Your father's business partners, the board members, even the Parkers from the country club. Linda, I said sharply. My credit card was, oh, and do wear something appropriate. She cut me off smoothly. I know you prefer those modest little outfits, but this is a real celebration. Maybe splurge on something nice for once. Oh, wait, she laughed, low and mocking. I'm sure you'll figure something out. You've always been so good at making do with less. My fingers clenched around the phone. Linda, someone stole. Life teaches us lessons when we need them most, sweetheart, she cooed. Some people are simply too weak to protect what's theirs. Tonight isn't about your problems, Madison. It's about family. Then the line went dead. For a long moment, I just stared at my reflection in the dark phone screen. Then, very quietly, I whispered, You think you've won, but you have no idea what I've been preparing. The phone slipped from my hand and landed softly on the couch beside me. For a moment, I just sat there, staring blankly at the ceiling, the steady hum of my apartment's heater filling the silence. My birthday. The day they had chosen to humiliate me, to strip me bare in front of everyone who mattered. It wasn't the first time Linda and Melissa had tried to tear me down. It had been happening for 10 years, ever since Linda married my father, Robert Reed. Back then, I'd been naive enough to believe she wanted to be part of a family. My mother had died when I was a teenager, and Dad, always buried in the demands of Reed Enterprises, deserved companionship. Linda swept in like a savior with her perfect smile and designer heels. I didn't see the cracks in her mask until it was too late. Melissa was 18 at the time, already spoiled, already entitled. She wasn't cruel in the beginning, just careless. But with Linda feeding her ego, that carelessness sharpened into something vicious. The years blurred together in a cycle of demands and sacrifices. When Melissa crashed her third car, I was encouraged to co-sign for her fourth because, as Linda put it, family helps family, Madison. Don't you want your sister safe? When Linda planned her infamous charity galas, she'd ask me to cover thousands in emergency costs that somehow never appeared on any tax filings. And birthdays? Mine became an afterthought. A text message, maybe. Meanwhile, Melissa's parties were legendary. Weekend getaways, luxury gifts, entire ballrooms rented out just to make her feel special. I played the role of the quiet, dependable daughter, the one who never complained, the one who picked up the slack while they burned through money and manipulated my father's affections. What they never noticed was that I was also watching. While Melissa partied, I built my career. I rose through the ranks of Reed Enterprises not because Linda supported me, but because I worked harder than anyone else. Quietly, steadily, invisibly. And all the while, Dad watched too. 6 months ago, during one of our rare private conversations, he gave me a single piece of advice. Patience, Madison. Let people show you who they really are. At the time, it frustrated me. I wanted action, justice, a clean break from their constant abuse. But now, I understood. I opened my laptop and began compiling everything. Screenshots of the missing funds, records of Melissa's reckless spending, Linda's charity withdrawals, even the timestamps showing when the security footage had been deleted. Each piece of evidence was a weapon. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from James Chen, our family lawyer and one of the few people I trusted completely. James, understood. Everything is ready. See you at 8. A slow, determined smile spread across my face. I closed the laptop with a soft click, my reflection staring back at me in the black screen. They thought I was weak because I stayed silent, I whispered to myself, rising to my feet. Tonight, they'll learn what real strength looks like. The Grand Meridian glittered like something out of a dream, or, in my case, a nightmare carefully orchestrated by Linda. Crystal chandeliers hung from the vaulted ceiling, their light reflecting off gold-trimmed mirrors and polished marble floors. A soft jazz trio played in the corner, while servers glided between tables carrying trays of champagne. It was the kind of event designed not just to impress, but to intimidate. I paused at the entrance, smoothing the fabric of my dress. It wasn't flashy, just a simple, elegant navy gown I'd bought months ago for corporate functions. Tonight, it was more than clothing. It was armor. Through the towering glass doors, I could see them. Linda, draped in a glittering silver gown, I recognized instantly. It was the exact dress I'd seen on my bank statement from Nordstrom's couture line. Melissa stood beside her in a red designer number, flashing diamond earrings that had appeared on my account 2 nights ago under a Tiffany & Co. charge. My stomach clenched, but I forced myself to keep walking. Linda spotted me first. Her smile stretched wide, gleaming under the lights. "Madison? Darling, you made it!" The way she said it made it sound like I'd almost missed my own party. As I approached, Melissa's gaze traveled over my dress, her lips curling in disdain. "Target?" she murmured, just loud enough for me to hear. Linda linked her arm through mine, her perfume cloying and heavy. "You look appropriate," she said, the faintest edge in her tone. "Come, everyone's been asking about the birthday girl." As she led me through the crowd, I caught snippets of conversations. Board members from Reed Enterprises, longtime investors, country club friends of my father. These weren't just guests. They were witnesses. And Linda had ensured there would be plenty of them. "Ah, Harrison," Linda purred, pulling me toward one of my father's biggest clients. "You know Madison, of course. She's been learning the ropes in accounting." Learning the ropes. I was the chief accountant for the entire company, but Linda made it sound like I was still balancing checkbooks for fun. Harrison Walsh smiled politely. "Yes, I've seen her reports. Very thorough work." Before I could thank him, Melissa inserted herself into the conversation. "Oh, come on, Harrison. Numbers are boring. Speaking of excitement, you have to hear about my trip to Paris." She gestured dramatically to the diamond earrings glittering on her ears. "Paris changes you, you know. The culture, the shopping, the opportunities." Linda laughed, a delicate, condescending sound. "Melissa has such natural business instincts. She's always thinking globally, aren't you, sweetheart?" "Yes, unlike some people who never leave their little bubble." Melissa's smirk was aimed directly at me. My hands itched to slap that smirk right off her face, but I simply smiled, my calm demeanor betraying nothing. Let them think they were winning. Across the room, I spotted James Chen seated at a table near the front. He caught my eye and raised his glass subtly. Beside his chair sat a leather portfolio, its presence almost humming with importance. Relief surged through me. My secret ally was here, and everything was ready. The room buzzed with conversation until Linda clinked a crystal glass, her voice slicing through the noise. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention?" The crowd quieted. "It's time for a very special toast to our birthday girl." Linda's tone dripped with false warmth, but before she could continue, Melissa snatched the microphone from the DJ stand. "Wait, Mom. I have to show everyone this." The screen behind the head table flickered to life, displaying a slideshow of Melissa's Paris escapade. There she was, sipping champagne on a yacht, strolling through luxury boutiques, dining at Michelin-starred restaurants, all funded by the money she'd stolen from me. Gasps rippled through the room. Melissa twirled dramatically. Paris was transformative. Some people think saving money is the key to life, but honestly, she laughed. Money should be spent. What's the point of hoarding it like some scared little mouse? Linda joined in smoothly, her eyes glittering. Strong women seize opportunities, don't they? Unlike certain weak people who mistake frugality for strength. I felt every gaze in the room turn toward me. They were trying to humiliate me, to make me small in front of everyone. I stepped forward slowly, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Melissa extended the microphone toward me with a smirk. I took it, raised it to my lips, and with a calm, measured voice said, "Enjoy it while it lasts." The room went utterly silent. Melissa's confident smile faltered. Linda's eyes narrowed, and for the first time all evening, I held the power. The room froze around me. For a moment, no one breathed. The jazz band's soft background music faded into awkward silence, and every pair of eyes in the Grand Meridian locked on me. Melissa's smirk faltered. What does that mean?" She stammered, her voice just a little too high-pitched. I turned slowly, my gaze sweeping across the glittering crowd. My father's business partners, board members, investors, they were all watching, waiting. "It means," I said evenly, my voice carrying across the room, "that actions have consequences." I held up the microphone, my hands steady despite the adrenaline surging through me. "Melissa," I said, looking directly at my sister, Are you admitting in front of everyone here that you stole $25,000 from me? Gasps echoed across the ballroom. Several guests straightened in their seats. Harrison Walsh's wife actually clapped a hand over her mouth. Melissa's face flushed crimson. Stole? Don't be dramatic, Madison. It was... Answer the question. My tone was sharp, cutting through her excuses like a blade. Before Melissa could speak, Linda glided forward, her heels clicking sharply against the marble. Her laugh was high and brittle. Oh, Madison, she said, shaking her head with mock pity. Stole? No, sweetheart. We taught you a lesson. A lesson about family loyalty. The crowd murmured in confusion, their heads turning back and forth between us like spectators at a tennis match. A lesson? I repeated, narrowing my eyes. Yes, Linda said, her confidence growing as she addressed the crowd like a practiced actress. You've always been so obsessed with saving, with hoarding every penny like some frightened child. Melissa and I thought it was time to show you what real living looks like. So, yes, we used some of your funds. That's not theft, that's family support. A ripple of disbelief swept through the audience. Behind me, James Chen shifted slightly, his phone raised just enough to be discreet. But I knew he was recording every word. Every single damning admission, Melissa chimed in, emboldened by her mother's theatrics. Besides, she said with a dismissive wave, you're single, living in that tiny apartment, no real expenses. You weren't using the money, Madison. You were just sitting on it. We did you a favor. My hands clenched into fists at my sides, but my voice remained calm. So, to be clear, I said, projecting my words for all to hear, you took my money without permission. You emptied my savings account. And now, you're publicly justifying it. Linda's smile didn't waver. That's right, dear. Some people are too weak to protect what's theirs. They make themselves victims. She turned to the audience, her voice dripping with false concern. This was about making Madison stronger. One day, she'll thank us. I took a deep breath, holding the microphone like a weapon. No, Linda, I said softly. Tonight, you'll thank me. Confusion flickered across her face. That's when my father stood. Robert Reed hadn't spoken all evening. He'd been sitting at the head table, silent and watchful, like a king surveying his court. Now, as he rose to his full height, the entire ballroom went still. Linda, he said, his voice quiet but razor-sharp. Sit down. The authority in his tone was absolute. Linda's mouth opened, then closed. Slowly, she sank into her chair, her eyes darting nervously. My father looked out over the crowd, his gaze sweeping the room. For years I've been silent, he said, his deep voice resonating through the space. I watched. I listened. And I waited. He turned to me, and for the first time that night, warmth flickered in his eyes. 6 months ago, he continued, I gave Madison legal authority over every financial aspect of Reed Enterprises. While Linda and Melissa were busy, indulging themselves, Madison was quietly protecting this company. A shocked murmur rose from the crowd. Melissa's eyes went wide. What? She squeaked, her voice cracking. You didn't know? Dad's expression hardened. Madison has been documenting your actions for months. Every unauthorized purchase, every fraudulent charge, every time you use this company, or her, for your own gain. Linda's face turned a chalky white. Robert, you can't be serious. I am, he said, cutting her off. And tonight? Tonight was never about Madison's birthday. It was about exposing you both in front of witnesses. My pulse pounded as he pulled out a small remote and pressed a button. The massive screen behind him flickered, and suddenly the ballroom was filled with grainy but unmistakable security footage. There was Linda, entering my apartment at 11:47 p.m. using her spare key. Melissa stood by the door, glancing nervously over her shoulder. The footage showed Linda sitting at my kitchen table, my laptop open as she initiated transfer after transfer, draining my savings while Melissa kept watch. Gasps erupted around the room. A woman near the back actually shouted, "Oh my God!" I turned to Linda, whose face had gone completely blank. This, I said, my voice cutting through the noise like a blade, isn't just family drama anymore. It's proof. James Chen closed his phone with a decisive click. And now, he said, stepping forward, it's on record. The room buzzed with whispers, the tide of power shifting in an instant. And for the first time all night, Linda and Melissa looked truly afraid. The ballroom was silent except for the faint hum of the projector. Linda and Melissa stood frozen, pale and wide-eyed. as their crime replayed before the 100 witnesses who had come expecting a birthday celebration. Then, with calm precision, James Chen stepped forward. He carried the same leather portfolio I'd seen earlier, only now he opened it with a deliberate snap. "Ladies and gentlemen," James said, his voice smooth but commanding, "what you are witnessing tonight is not simply a family matter. It is a legal proceeding in its early stages. And every single person here," he gestured around the room, "is now a witness." The murmur that rippled through the crowd was electric. James pulled out the first document and held it high. "This," he announced, "is a power of attorney executed 6 months ago, granting Madison Reed complete authority over all financial decisions related to Reed Enterprises." Linda's head whipped toward my father. Her voice cracked. "You gave her that authority without telling me? Without telling Melissa?" Dad's face was carved from stone. "You were too busy stealing to notice," he said coldly. James produced a second document. "This is a criminal complaint that will be filed first thing Monday morning should restitution not be made. It details the embezzlement of $347,000 from company accounts over a 3-year period, along with last night's theft of Madison's personal funds." Melissa staggered back a step. 300 and... She couldn't even finish the number, her voice breaking into a whimper. "And," James continued smoothly, pulling out a third paper, "as of this moment, all accounts linked to Linda and Melissa Reed are frozen pending investigation." The crowd gasped again. "What?" Melissa shrieked. "You can't do that." "Oh, but we can," James replied, his tone razor-sharp. "The forensic audit was completed yesterday. Your personal accounts, corporate credit cards, even the car leases, all frozen. Your keycards to Reed Enterprises offices have already been deactivated." As if on cue, Madison's phone buzzed with a text. "Security confirmed access denied for both parties." Melissa's face crumpled. "My car?" she whispered, as though the loss of her luxury vehicle was the greatest tragedy imaginable. "The company's car," I corrected calmly, "which you've been using for personal shopping trips in violation of policy." Linda clutched her chest like she might faint. "Robert, please. This is a misunderstanding." "No," my father said firmly. "This is betrayal." I stepped forward, my voice clear and steady. "You have 48 hours to return the $25,000 you stole from my personal accounts," I said. "And you will also provide full restitution for the $347,000 you embezzled from Reed Enterprises." Melissa's lip trembled. "But that's impossible." "Then you'd better get creative," I replied coolly. "Because if you fail to comply, if you're 1 minute late or $1 short, I will press full criminal charges. And considering you've already confessed publicly, in front of witnesses, I'd say your odds in court aren't good." Melissa turned to me desperately, tears streaming down her face. "Madison, please. We're family." I stared at her, unblinking. "Family doesn't mean immunity from consequences." Linda dropped to her knees with a dramatic sob, clutching at the hem of my gown. "Madison, we can fix this," she begged. "We can talk privately, just the 3 of us. No lawyers, no threats." "Please," I stepped back, shaking her off with quiet dignity. "No, Linda, you chose this venue. You chose to humiliate me in public. Now you'll face the consequences in public, too." James handed each of them a crisp envelope. "These contain the terms of restitution and the legal documents freezing your assets," he explained. "You'll also find contact information for several criminal defense attorneys you may wish to retain." Linda opened her envelope with trembling hands and let out a strangled sob. Melissa just stood there, hollow-eyed, as though the glittering world she'd built around herself had crumbled into dust. For a moment, the room was utterly silent. Then, my father's voice cut through like a command. "Leave." Linda blinked up at him. "Robert, now." With that single word, he severed whatever hold she thought she had left. Linda staggered to her feet, clinging to Melissa for support. Together, they stumbled toward the ballroom doors. Linda turned once as if to speak, but when she saw the cold determination in my eyes, she thought better of it and kept moving. The door swung shut behind them with a heavy finality. And then, applause. It started with Harrison Walsh, slow and deliberate, then spread through the entire room until the sound filled every corner of the ballroom. Madison Reed, the quiet, overlooked daughter, stood tall at the center of it all, as the room erupted in thunderous approval. This was no longer their stage. It was mine. The moment Linda and Melissa disappeared through those ballroom doors, the atmosphere shifted. The oppressive tension that had hung over the room evaporated, replaced by something I hadn't felt in years: respect. One by one, my father's business partners and the company's board members came to me, not him, offering congratulations and, more importantly, their support. Harrison Walsh, our most influential client, was the first to speak. "Madison," he said firmly, "on behalf of Walsh Enterprises, we want to increase our contract by 40%. Effective immediately!" The room stirred with excitement. Others followed, pledging loyalty not just to Reed Enterprises, but to me personally. By the time the servers cleared the last plates, I had verbally secured millions of dollars in new business simply by proving I could protect what mattered. For the first time, people weren't looking through me. They were looking to me. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind. Linda and Melissa scrambled to gather funds, selling everything they could. Melissa's Mercedes, her designer handbags, even the diamond earrings she'd worn to the party. Linda liquidated her secret investment account, the one she'd built with stolen company money. At 8:43 p.m. on Monday night, just 17 minutes before the deadline, James Chen confirmed receipt of the full $25,000 stolen from me, along with the $347,000 embezzled from Reed Enterprises. Linda signed her divorce papers and a strict non-disclosure agreement, agreeing to relinquish any claim to the company. If she broke the NDA, she'd face immediate legal action. She didn't argue. She just signed, her hands shaking. Melissa didn't speak a word to me when she dropped off the restitution documents. She couldn't even meet my eyes. In the weeks that followed, my life transformed. My credit score recovered. I bought the home I'd been saving for, paying cash thanks to my first bonus as CFO of Reed Enterprises. Melissa got a job, the first real job of her life, working as a junior sales associate at a high-end department store. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. She now sold the same designer goods she once flaunted, only this time at a commission. Linda moved back to her mother's house in New Jersey. Rumor had it she was trying to start a consulting firm for women entrepreneurs. No one was hiring her. 1 year later, my birthday looked very different. No chandeliers, no 100-person guest list. Just a quiet dinner with my father, James Chen, and a few close friends. As we raised our glasses, my father smiled. "You know, Madison, your mother used to say that the quiet ones often hold the most power." I nodded, finally understanding. We just use it differently. If you've ever been underestimated by people who should have protected you, share this story. Drop a comment about the boundaries you've set, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about finding strength in silence. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's power, waiting for the perfect moment to speak.